Well, hey guys, hi, what is going on out there today? It is Brent Abel here, webtennis.com, another episode of 7 Around 7. And today, we're going to talk about how to build belief in your game. You can translate the word belief into confidence. Lots of different ways to think about it. But if we're going to play at the highest level that we're currently at on a consistent basis, right? And I've talked a lot about your skill level range forever, right? And Jeff Jacklich and I got into it when we were doing a lot of gold ball hunting, right? Those episodes. And that is really the fact that the reality is that some days we can go out and we can play at the very top of our level throughout the entire match, right? Singles and or doubles. And then we can go out the next day after having gone home and say, hey, babe, guess what? I've got the game figured out. And then the next day we go out there and where we were the day before here, now today we're way down here, right? Kind of lay a fat egg out there. So the whole idea is, how do you bring the bottom of your skill level consistently to where you're playing at the top? And once you do that, once you get your skill level bottom up there where it's a really small skill level range, you know what happens is that's when you start to really trust your game, believe it, that you know that from day to day, you're going to go out there and you can really count on the level you're going to play at. What I want to work on today are the realities of what we got to do to be able to have a really small skill level range. And like every time I talk about skill level range, I get emails or going, skill level, why would you want to have a small range? Well, I want you to think about this, right? Is just exactly what I said. Top of our skill level, let's say that you're a 4-5, right? You're a computer rated 4-5, meaning that you can play solidly at that 4-5 range, maybe even a little 4-6 or 4-7. But there are days, and you know as well as I do, you go out there and you're down there around 4-1. Might not be for the whole match, but it's enough of the match to where it causes a lot of frustration. And you know, you just don't play at the top of your skill level range. So that's what I mean. I think a lot of players think, well, maybe I should. Anyway, forget it. So guys, listen, before we get into that, speaking of belief, I guess I kind of pranked a few of you yesterday with a belief on that April Fool's thing that I was getting out of tennis and getting into pickleball. And again, not that I'm against pickleball. I think I love the fact that we found something that's getting a lot of people off the couch, a lot of maybe even former tennis players who had gotten injured or whatever, and the court was just beating them up. And so there's another game, right? Anyway, I had some frightening emails and some frightening responses to going, oh my God, my good friend Owen, a frequent practice partner, the big O. I think he was about to sue me. I think he was going to wait, man. No, you cannot be doing this. So anyway, all's good. We're back on the tennis thing. So guys, I'm going to bring up, actually I made some notes for this morning. I want to make sure I hit on all of them. And by the way, I've got a page of notes here that if you want the notes, I'll send it to you in the form of a PDF. All you got to do is shoot me an email, brent@webtennis.com, and I will send you these notes. So how to build belief. And the first thing is that there is nobody, there's no friend, there's no coach, there's no book, there's no video that is going to provide you with the quick fix, right? There are no tips, and there's no tip singular, there's no tips plural that'll magically give you confidence. You've got to earn it. I'm sorry, you just have to earn it. And there's a process that you've got to go through to be able to do that, which really means that this is a long-term commitment. This is not oh, by the way, I've decided to play this tournament next month. And so I better, kind of start getting ready. Maybe I'll start eating a little bit better. Maybe I'll do a couple little footwork drills. And if that's your idea of getting belief in your game and going out there and competing, I think you're going to get a real strong dose of reality in that first round that even if it's someone that you should be beating 10 out of 10 times, I think what you're going to find is that your belief is not where it is in practice. And so this is a long-term commitment, and I want you to be thinking about it as a plan, right? This is a plan that you've actually got to sit down and you got to map out. And I would say the smallest plan would be 6 months, right? I mean, and look, what is a plan? Well, what are you going to do each day during those 6 months? What are you going to do each day during that 180-day period to be able to start to build some belief in your ability to consistently play at the top of your skill level? And once you're doing that, that's when you start to move the needle up a little bit higher into that next level of players. But you can't be you can't be playing a few games against these top guys and then the next day you go out and you'll end up laying an egg against someone who got to be beating all the time, right? You've got to be consistent with your results at the very top of your skill level first before you move up. So that takes a plan. There's no tip. Sorry, man. There's no tip. There's no little magic bullet that's going to do it. So first things first is you've got to get a plan. And what I want you to be thinking about with a plan is that if you really map it out in terms of the things we're to go through on this: technique, tactics, physical, visualization, experiences, and finding, a trusted person, a coach. And we'll go through each one of those topics. But once you've come up with this plan, then your job is to do nothing more than just execute it on a daily basis. That's it. And if you'll do that, I think what you'll find is that you trust it, and you're not going to be doing what I think is the biggest mistake. And I used to make this mistake way back in the day when I started to play, and I wanted to get better, and I was playing tournaments. I was playing everything I could get into, and I was so eager and so hungry to, get better, to improve, that every time I'd go on the court, which was every day, I would start measuring. I got, now, am I a little bit better than yesterday? Am I doing this better? Have I got more confidence? And the more I tried to measure, the more frustration. And so eventually I just stopped it and just started to trust that whatever I was working on, and I didn't have a plan back then. I just thought, my plan was just, well, let me just work my ass off, right? Let me go out there and play every day. Let me go after my 2 or 3 sets at the Berkeley Tennis Club, go to the locker, change shoes, put on the running shoes, run over to the Memorial Stadium over at Cal, which back then, by the way, was wide open, and you could just run in there, and I'd run in there and do the stairs. And so that was a big deal for me, right? That was, I think I've told this story before, but I'd run those sections, 75 rows of steps, around the oval. And in the beginning, I could do maybe half a dozen before just about puking. When I got better, I could do about half the stadium, and I'd end up starting on the east side of the stadium and come around to the west side. And then you get to the top of the Memorial Stadium, and you look over the bay to Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco and go, wow, I do think I'm the only one doing this. So maybe this will pay off. So for me, the big thing was much more about a plan for physical, was seeing how good a shape I could get in. And that kind of running really didn't pay off that much. I realized that any kind of that long distance, and it really wasn't long distance, it was a mile over. Excuse me. The stairs, doing all that stuff was great. I eventually figured out I'm going to ride my bike over there, so that I wasn't beating myself up so bad in the legs. But I eventually got into a little bit smarter thing in terms of the physical stuff I should be doing. But the bottom line here is I didn't really have a plan. I just went out there and just sort of every day just kind of beat myself up. And eventually that started to pay off. But then I got a little bit smarter. I got some help, got some coaching from the great Tom Stowe, and that changed the whole thing for me. But again, the biggest mistake you'll make once you come up with a plan and once you start to execute it, the biggest mistake you'll make is you'll try to measure how you're doing every day. And you just have to trust it. You got to trust and believe in your plan, and just execute it. Nothing more than just executing it, and just believe that if you do that, eventually your improvement's going to show up. Your confidence, your trust in matches is going to show up on its own time. You cannot force it. All right, so let's go through. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 topics here in terms of what should be in your plan. And number one is going to be technique, right? And I would look at, is there some part of your game that is really a glaring weakness? And then I would take a look at it and go, is there something actually that you're doing extra that makes it a glaring weakness that you could just cut out, that you could actually make your technique a whole lot more simple? And this was the thing I got from Mr. Stowe. And I've told this story before. We were working on my forehand, and I had this little thing I did at the top of the racket prep. He liked to call it a flare. And he just said, stop that. It doesn't help you. It gets in the way of your consistency with not only your spacing, but your consistency in terms of your point of contact. You're always trying to catch up with the ball. So we simplified that, and that was his whole thing, is let's do less. How minimalist can you go with technique, which in the end is going to make you much more of a consistent shot maker? And consistency in shot making does what? Makes you more confident, right? Gives you belief. And so it doesn't matter who's over there. If you believe that you're a consistent shot maker, you kind of wipe out that person over there in terms of being, kind of in the front of your mind. And all that you're thinking about is just executing simply, another forehand, another backhand, another approach shot, whatever it is. So what I would do is I would make sure in terms of technique, I would have a qualified pro take a look at your strokes. They can do this in video. If you've got someone there who you can get in the court with, that's fine. But look, you got to be careful with who is looking at your strokes. There are a lot of teaching pros out there, and look, I'm not disrespecting them, and I'm not criticizing them. But a lot of, in fact, most of them have not played at a high enough winning skill level in a competitive situation where they went through what you want to go through in terms of belief, which is they had to build it themselves. They know the feeling of what it's like to have minimal confidence and then build it, and then what that whole process is about. And so I would really seek out that kind of a teaching pro, a guy or gal, or you can do this online with video as well. Sometimes that's almost better. It's just, video ought to be part of it for you. But look, you've got to find someone that's just not teaching the latest thing that they see on TV. And I'm not, again, I don't want to be disrespectful to those teaching pros out there. And so anyway, look, you got to find the qualified pro to help you with stroke technique. Tactics, right? Strategy. This is the second topic, or the second section, is for a while, you've got to really go for big targets. Too often what we do when we think about a plan about getting better is we go out there and we drill, and the whole drill is, well, how big can we hit the ball, as if we're trying to master how to hit outright winners. And look, I'm guilty of that. I used to go out there and just think, what can I do? How big can I go? How small percentage can I go and be consistent with it? And, in practice where it doesn't matter, okay, maybe you can, pull off a few of these, but once you get in a match, it just doesn't show up the same way. So make sure that when you're drilling, that your tactics are big targets. What are big targets? More height over the net. Right? Make it a safer margin over the top of the net. Let that be the thing that creates depth on your shots, right? Rather than thinking low to the net but hard so it goes deep, think of higher over the net, not crazy spin, but some, right? Just so you have some swing freedom. So hide over the net, well inside the lines. And look, what I would be practicing is you can divide the court lengthwise into thirds, right? So that you've got, if you're standing on the middle of the baseline, you've got a third of the court to the left, a third in the middle, and a third to the right, right? Well, look, practice 70% of the time just going through the middle, through that third in the middle. Then go 20% cross court and then 10% up the line. And this is a winning shot choice strategy that works. Most players don't believe it. Most players think they got to flirt with the lines way too often up the line and certainly cross court to be able to be competitive in the point. They just don't trust that they can stay in the point. Well, look, once you drill it this way, rather than always just, well, let's just hit cross court. Okay, but if you're going to hit cross court, find that target that is that's the line between the middle third, right, and that cross court third, rather than thinking, well, I got to go for that sideline. That's what I've got to perfect. Don't do that. So 70% of the time, go through the middle and make this when you're playing sets, when you're playing practice matches or league matches or tournaments, go through the middle. And I think what you're going to find is that, first of all, you're way more consistent in shot making, right? And we've talked about the 0 to 4 category ad nauseum. You win that thing, the chances go way up that you're going to win the match. So how do you win it? Well, you go through the middle. You serve to the body, right? You return back to the body. And then your next shot, whether the server or the returner, assuming it's not a fat sitter, is you go heavy to the middle again, high over the net. All right. Next topic is physical. And I'm not going to mess around with this one. I'm just going to say, if you want to build belief, if you want to build confidence in your game, not arrogance, not cockiness, but if you want to build belief that when you're on the court with anybody, hey, why not me? Why shouldn't I be able to compete with this person? Then you better get into the best shape of your life. And that is just a big fat period. If you're carrying around an extra 15 or 20 pounds, all the other stuff you could master. But if you're hauling around extra baggage, you're never going to build the belief ever. I'm sorry, dose of reality. I'm not here to fluff the pillows and whatever. It's got to be the best shape in your life. And like I said before, you got to be smart about that in terms of what things can you do physically on the court and off the court that tightly resemble the movements that you make on the tennis court. I used to do a lot of long distance running. Oh my God, I could last in the court all day long, but I couldn't move worth a lick. I was super slow, right? So you got to make sure that the physical part is getting to the best shape of your life. That's just a given. And I know that there's a small percentage of you that are going to tell me, I'll do it. And I love it. There's also a percentage that's going to say, well, I'm already in great shape. Okay. Are you in great tennis shape? Are you doing the things on the court and off the court that will enhance the half a dozen common movement situations that we find in tennis? That are you doing drills to enhance those different situations? 1% maybe, 99% aren't. So if you're really interested in building belief and getting some confidence in this game, then you got to get serious about the physical thing. And look, getting in the best shape of your life is a big time commitment, right? It's not a dabble thing. It is eating right. It is stretching a ton. It is doing the drills that I just talked about in terms of tennis specific drills, and it's being consistent with it. It's just not like, oh, I got 30 days to get ready for this tournament. No, man, you got it. Okay. Next one is visualization, right? Now you got to be able to take at least 10 minutes a day, get somewhere quiet, off the court, and shut your eyes and do two things. Number one is visualize the feeling of whatever, a serve, a backhand slice, a forehand up the middle, roller, rally ball. Shut your eyes as if, and visualize that you are actually performing it. And what I want you to feel as you're doing this is feel being smooth. Just if you want to model, just Seb Korda right now, Sebi Korda out there is just showing the world what the game or how the game should be played. And here's a kid who's 20 years old. And I'll tell you, I've been telling everyone for the past few days, if I had a junior academy somewhere or a junior program, I would stop whatever I was doing right then and there. And I would say, here's our new model. This is what we're going to copy and model. And talking to Jeff Jacklich last night, just going, thank God, because there's now someone who's going to show us, hopefully for the next 15 years, the beauty of the game, right? We've had Fed, and we know that Fed's time is coming to an end here probably pretty soon, right? In terms of being able to see him compete. But my gosh, I mean, I would tell my kids and I would tell the parents, here's our model. If you want Rafa as the model, go on down the street. I'm sure there's a club pro down there that'll teach you how to hit a forehand just like Rafa. We don't do that here. This kid is our model, not only for the smoothness that he shows, but for grips, for setup, for swing shapes, for the whole package. And so getting back to visualization, go watch Sebi Korda play a little bit and just get a sense of how smooth he is. And then when you visualize, feel yourself being that kind of smooth. And then the second part of visualization is now with your eyes shut, you're an observer watching yourself, right? You're there in the stands watching yourself as you do the smooth thing. And it's not about results. You're not sitting there trying to, visualize winning points and this kind of thing. You're just visualizing the feeling of being smooth and then visualizing as an observer, looking at yourself being smooth. 10 minutes a day. You've got 10 minutes. I know you do. Even if you're not on the court that day, even if you're traveling, whatever. Obviously, when we're in the car, we don't want to be shutting our eyes and visualizing, but there's so many opportunities to do that. And the payoff is going to be huge in terms of eventually building that belief and trust that you want as a player. The next one is experiences. So, for example, with practice, an easy way to do this is, and you got to have the right practice partner. You got to have someone who wants to do this with you, right? And again, you may have to hunt that player down. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, a lot of players just want to go out there and play. That's cool. They're content with their tennis. They're content where they are as a player. They're probably never going to play a tournament, maybe play a little league stuff. That's fine. But in terms of finding someone who will do this type of a practice where, you take 10 minutes to get good and lathered up and warmed up, right? And then you take the next 20 minutes and you drill and you do some kind of a drill. And look, there's 101 different drills that you could do. But I would certainly, the drill I would be doing would be, if it's technique, then it's going to be, I'm working on minimalist, right? If it's tactic, I'm probably going up the middle the entire time, right? And then it's the feeling of the entire thing, which is being on balance, good posture, and being smooth. So now you're 10 minutes warm up, your 20-minute drill, you're half an hour into it, and now go play 2 sets. Just play 2 sets and try to forget everything that you've just done and see if by now the practice you've put in up to this point is starting to kick in on its own, where you're allowing your subconscious to play the game. I'm sure you've probably seen or read or heard of The Inner Game of Tennis by the great Tim Galway, and a book way ahead of its time. I mean, I remember back when I first read it, I went, oh, come on, you got to be kidding me, man. What is this kind of like Berkeley feel-good woo-woo stuff? Stupid. The guy was so right. He was so right in terms of self one and self two. And the more you recognize the difference between being conscious in practice or what you're working on, and then once you start to play, just let it go. Just trust that your subconscious self two is going to come out if you allow it. And for me, the way that I do it is I just count. And we've talked about this recently. I just count. Serve is 1. Right at contact, 1. Next ball that comes back, 2. And I say the words to myself. I mean, I say the numbers to myself, but I say them precisely at contact so that, and it goes back to, go always bounce hit thing, is that for me, I like the counting. You might try the bounce hit theory, and remember that the bounce hit thing is when the ball bounces on your side of the court. At the moment it bounces, not before, not after, but at the moment, as you say the word bounce to yourself, and at the moment you make contact, you say hit, right? And so for me, it helps me really visually lock on the ball just prior to contact. And when I do that, when I'm not peeking, looking out in the landscape before I make contact, my confidence goes way up. So you might try that as well. So there you go. I mean, that would be a simple practice. Warm up for 10, drill for 20, and then play 2 sets. And don't worry about the outcome, right, of the sets. And then finally, you got to find a coach. You got to find someone that you trust that has got your back, right? I mean, someone who totally agrees with your plan. Why couldn't you sit down with this person and go through a plan? Tell them what you want to do, and make sure that it is a long-term plan. Hey, you got to get me ready for this tournament or for this league match that's coming up in 2 weeks. Okay, that's not going to do it, man. That's going to be a recipe for frustration. So find someone who has been through what you want to go through. Find someone who's done what you want to do, right? And sit down with that plan, go through it. They may have an idea that I haven't thrown out there at you that kind of works better for you. And if nothing else, let them be an accountability partner for you so that you've got someone that you could check in with maybe 2 times a week, at least once a week, and just go through, hey, here's what I did this week. Here was the plan. I stuck to it. And there you have it. So if you were looking for how to build belief in terms of a quick fix, a little tip with today's little promo with that, let me get back here to me. The picture, sorry. Sorry. There's so much stuff out there right now. And I mean, in terms of coaches, online coaches, trying to convince you to part with your money because they have got the answer in the form of a 30-minute video, in the form of something. And all right, well, okay, more power to them, I guess. But if, as Jake on State Farm says, if you want the real deal. Anyway, so guys, who we got? Mike Rogers. Mike says, I used a plan to get to the next level. Attaboy. Yeah. Hey, Mike, congratulations on being selected to play in the Nationals. That's great. That's going to be a great event for you. And I can't remember when that is, but be sure you probably, I assume that you're working with Jeff on a regular basis. Yeah, if you want to get in the phone with me, just give me a call. I know that you got my number. Mike, great ideas and a plan and being relevant, I think is what you meant. Maybe not. Omar, Seb Cordy is moving up the rankings in a hurry. He is relevant. I think he meant relevant. All right. Anyway, Omar, he is. I think even though he lost last night and got a little dinged up, right? But that was pretty darn impressive. Cordy loses the first set, and at some point, I think early in the second set, he dings up left leg. Not sure if it was a quad or hammy or whatever, but he's in some pretty visible pain. He's not being a baby out there. He's not, oh, woe is me type of thing. He did call the trainer, and I think they took a 5-minute break to get his leg taped up and do whatever. But he comes out, and I think he holds serve at 3-5. Is that it? He breaks serve, I think, at 5-3. And now he holds. He gets anyway. He ends up getting the tiebreaker. I think he had a set point to take it to a third, kind of hobbling around. But you talk about building belief. I mean, look, you can get hurt out there and think to yourself, well, I don't want to lose to this guy. I'm not 100%, so why don't I just quit? And look, I've done that before. I played the indoors, the national indoors in Houston one year, and I had a back injury that I couldn't sit down between side changes because I felt if I sat down, I could not get back up. So eventually, I think after the second set, I just went up there and shook hands and said, "Well done. I can't go." So, but what I saw from Seb Korda last night was, let's see. Hold on for a second here. This might be. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Katie calling from Trout Electric.
Good morning. I'm doing well. What's up?
I was just giving you a call with your technician questions ETA to your property today. They should be ready right around 8:20.
We'll see you then. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Bye. Okay. All right. Anyway, so guys, apologies for that little interruption. You know what to do. Look, if you want the notes that I made on this thing, just hit me up, Brent@webtennis.com, and I will send them to you. Omar, Rublev is probably the hottest player on tour now, and Korda was right there with him. Yeah, no question. Sebi is, I think, Monday going to be ranked 64 in the world. And as I mentioned a couple of days ago, it wasn't that long ago. I want to say 7 or 8 months. I don't think he was in the top 200. So whatever he's doing, it's working. It is working. All right, guys, that's it. It's time. Get out there, help someone else have a spectacular day. Thanks for hanging in there with my rambling today, and I'll see you again next time.